So today we're going to talk about sense relations, also called lexical relations. In our previous lesson, we discussed lexical meaning, what a word means on its own. We look at things like denotation, connotation, and reference, how words carry meaning and point to things in this world. But now we're moving a step further. Instead of looking at words by themselves, today we will explore how words relate to each other in meaning. Let's get started. On the screen, you'll see a word beautiful. So, what other words come to mind when you hear this word? Now, I want you to think. You can pause this video to write down your answers. You can think of the words like pretty, elegant, or graceful, or even a word that associates with it like a beautiful girl, for example, or a beautiful view. Next word is tree. Maybe you think of leaves, branches, forest, or green, or even twig, or even something that you feel about a tree, like comfort. Now, this little reflection shows us something important. Words don't exist in isolation. Artinya, kata-kata tidak bisa dimaknai hanya dengan kata tersebut sendiri. They connect to other words in our minds through meaning. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in this lesson, sense relation. Now let's define what we mean by sense relations. Sense relation describe how words are related to other words in meaning. In other words, instead of looking at a single word on its own, we look at how it connects with others through similarity, contrast, categories, or even associations. Why is this important? First, it helps us understand words in context because words often get their full meaning from the words around them. Second, it helps us learn vocabulary faster. When we learn one word, we can also learn the related words. And third, it helps us choose the right word, especially in speaking or writing, where word choice really matters. Sense relations are like the map of how words live and work together in the language. So, if words were people, sense relations are their social network, who is similar, opposite, part of a family, or in the same group. Now let's take a look at the categories. So there are 8 categories here. We're gonna discuss it one by one. We have synonymy, antonymy, polysemy, homonymy, hyponymy, hypernymy, meronymy, and metonymy. First, let's talk about synonymy. So synonyms are words that have similar meanings. I believe everyone is familiar with this term. Notice that the words are not always exact. Jadi nggak semua kata-kata walaupun maknanya serupa tapi sama persis. Nggak ada ya. So you need to put the word in context. So context and register matter. For example, big and large, they are synonyms. They are similar, but we cannot put the words in the same and certain context.
For example, a big brother is not the same as a large brother in meaning.
Now, I'm going to show you some other examples. For big synonyms, we have large, huge, enormous, massive, gigantic, vast, and substantial. The next is smart. We have intelligent, clever, bright, sharp, quick, witted, brainy, and knowledgeable. And also we have for happy here, joyful, cheerful, glad, content, pleased, delighted, and overjoyed. Let's go to the next one, antonymy. Antonymy can be categorized into 3 main types. So the semantic relation between words in antonymy, that they have opposite meanings. The first distinct characteristic is gradable antonyms. So these antonyms represent opposite ends of a spectrum and allow for varying degrees of intensities. For example, here, consider the words hot and cold. These are not absolute states. There can be many temperatures between hot and cold, like warm or cool. The weather can be slightly cold, very cold, or extremely cold. Similarly, it can be slightly hot, very hot, or extremely hot. So this type of antonymy is often used with comparative and superlative forms such as hotter or coldest. The next characteristic is complementary antonyms. So these antonyms do not allow for a middle ground or degrees. Something is either one or the other, but not both. For example, the words alive and dead are complementary antonyms. A living thing is either alive or dead. There is no in-between state. Another example is on and off. A light switch is either on or off. There is no halfway point. Nggak ada setengah nyala, setengah mati ya kalau misalnya lampu itu kan, atau mesin gitu ya. Similarly, a statement is either true or false. It cannot be both at the same time. So the key difference is that gradable antonyms have a range between them, while complementary antonyms are binary and do not have any intermediate state. The third characteristic is relational or converse antonym. So these are word pairs that have a reciprocal relationship. It means that there is a connection between two people or groups where both parties give and receive in a balanced way. It's built on mutual exchange, meaning that each person contributes to the relationship and benefits from it in return. For example, we have here teacher, student, parent, child, and buy, sell. Usually one cannot exist without the other. For instance, there can be no buying if there is no selling. Right, the next category is polysemy. So polysemy is when a single word has multiple related meanings. You see here, I put the bold words in the definition. So you need to remember that polysemy is a word that has multiple meanings but still related. Now, for example, the word head. The head refers to the object on top of your body or fruit on top of a glass of beer, person at the top of a company or department or school. Say at school, we call it headmaster. At department or office, we call it head of department. And another example here is run. Refers to a person does. When a person runs, it means they move quickly on their feet, right? Faster than walking, where both feet are off the ground at some point during each step. Example in a sentence, she runs every morning to stay fit. Now for the water runs, when water runs, it means it flows or moves along a surface or through a particular area. For example, in a sentence, the river runs through the forest. Now, for the colors run, when colors run, it refers to the process of a dye or color bleeding or spreading, especially when wet, leading to a loss or crispness of or definition. Seperti warna yang tercampur atau kena kelunturan ya, seperti itu. For example, in a sentence, be careful washing that shirt. The colors might run. Jadi bukan warnanya lari-lari ya, tapi mirip masih ada hubungannya gitu ya. Jadi berubah, ada pergerakan. dari satu tempat ke tempat yang lainnya. So, homonyms are words with the same form but unrelated meanings. For example, the word bat, it can mean a flying animal, or in Bahasa Indonesia, it is called kelelawar. But it can be also a baseball equipment like tongkat kasti ya. Nah, seperti itu. The same word, but it has different meaning and it is unrelated. Another example is the word bank, like money bank and river bank. So to compare that between polysemy and homonymy, that polysemy has related meanings while homonymy has unrelated meanings. If we are not sure whether different uses of a single word are examples of homonymy or polysemy, we can check in a dictionary. If the word has multiple meanings, it is polysemous or polysemy. There will be a single entry with a numbered list of the different meanings. If two words are homonyms, they will have two separate entries. So that's what usually written in the dictionary. So now we already covered synonymy, antonymy, polysemy, and homonymy. Now next is about hyponymy and hypernymy. Their relationship is hierarchical, with the hypernym representing a general category and the hyponyms representing specific examples within that category. Hypernymy is like having one big category that includes a bunch of smaller, more specific categories. For example, color is the hypernym, representing the most general category, while red, white, and black are hypernyms of color, since they are more specific categories, falling under the broader category of color. So a hypernym is a general term for a group of things, and the specific items in that group are called hypernyms. It's like an umbrella term that covers all the related, more specific terms under it. Now, let's take a look at this example for the color hypernym. And hypernyms are red, white, and black. But the relationship between red and white is called cohypernym. And between white and black, of course, it's still cohypernym. Even between red and black, also cohypernym, because they are positioned at the same level. Another example is flower. Flower is the hypernym, since this is the highest, the bigger one, the bigger category. For the hypernym rose, jasmine, and
Orchid.
And between rose and jasmine or an orchid, or rose and orchid are called hypernym. This is only two levels of the diagram tree. It can be more than two, of course. For example, like animal. Animal can be distributed into several categories. Like, for example, reptiles, mammals, mollusk yang seperti moluska gitu kalau di bahasa Indonesia. And then for reptiles itself, it can have its own hypernym. Seperti misalnya crocodiles, snakes, and so on. Itu jadi 3 level, dan bahkan bisa lebih banyak lagi. Next, we go to meronymy. So meronymy is when a word refers to a part of something larger. For example, wheel is a meronym of car, and branch is a meronym of tree. So if a car were a puzzle, meronyms would be the individual puzzle pieces. Beda dengan hypernym tadi. Nah, hypernym membicarakan tentang kategori berdasarkan hierarki ya. Urutannya dari yang paling umum menjadi yang lebih spesifik. Tapi kalau meronymy itu seperti puzzle, misalnya roda, jendela, pintu, dan sebagainya, mesin ya, atau bahan bakar adalah meronim dari mobil. Now, what about the meronyms of a house? You can say, coba boleh di pause dulu, tebak apa? lalu dipadankan dengan jawaban yang saya berikan. Meronyms of a house, it can be a door, roof, floor, walls, and so on. For the body, the meronyms are head, eyes, shoulder, legs, and so on. And for the book, it can be a cover, pages, titles, and so on. Now, the last one is metonymy. Metonymy is when we use one word to stand for something else that is closely connected to it, but not part of it.
For examples, the crown refers to the monarchy or royal authority. In a sentence, the crown imposed strict new laws across the kingdom. So clearly that the phrase the crown refers to the ruling monarchy. The next example is Hollywood. Hollywood refers to the American film industry. For example, Hollywood continues to promote sequels and superhero franchises. So this Hollywood, it refers to the American film industry instead of the location. Now, what about the White House refers to? In a sentence, for example, the White House responded quickly to the international crisis. So clearly, the phrase White House refers to the US government or president. So far, we've explored how words relate to each other in meaning. Things like synonyms, opposites, categories, and associations. These are all part of what we call sense relations. But words don't only relate through meaning. Words also relate through how they are used in sentences and how they can combine or replace in real language use. So this brings us to two key ideas in semantics and linguistics. They are syntagmatic and paradigmatic relations. Let's take a look. Syntagmatic relations describe how words are arranged in a sequence to create meaning in a sentence. It's all about structure. Words must follow a logical order to make sense. They follow grammatical rules and patterns. In this case, it follows syntax and collocation. Collocation itu misalnya padanan kata. Kayak come on dengan come in. Mereka padanan kata yang berbeda dan memiliki maknanya masing-masing. For example, as you see here, there are several words ended with full stop. The mat, cat, sat on. It doesn't follow grammatical rules and patterns, so it is confusing for the English speaker. It doesn't make any sense at all. So it is a wrong sentence. Now, what if we rearrange these words into the correct one? The cat sat on the mat. Now it's not confusing anymore because it follows the grammatical rules and patterns. The sentence starts with the subject and then it is followed by verb, and at the end we can see there is a preposition and object of the preposition. So the subject is always the noun, and then the predicate is always started with a verb, and after preposition is always followed by the noun. So here, cat is in syntagmatic relation with sat, on, and the mat. Ya, sesuai dengan namanya syntagmatic, maka harus sesuai dengan peraturan sintaks. Now, what about paradigmatic? Paradigmatic relations are about the word choices that you can swap in a sentence without breaking the rules. So it's like having a closet full of clothes and choosing what to wear. For example, the cat sat on the mat. You could replace mat for rug or carpet, and it still makes sense. Or you can even change the word cat into Persian cat or even a dog or a monkey. Just imagine that you have a closet, lemari ya, full of clothes, and you want to choose what to wear. Tetap saja ketika Anda memilih apa yang akan Anda pakai, Anda akan tetap memadankan, ya kan, yang pantas. Misalnya, kerudung ya ditaruh di kepala, helm ya taruh di kepala, topi ya taruh di kepala. Tapi kalau misalnya kemeja, ya taruhnya di badan. Rok atau celana, ya taruhnya di bagian bawah. Kemudian pakaian dalam ada di dalam. Ketika in the name of fashion kita mencoba merubah peraturan yang sudah ada, misalnya nih kita pakai underwear misalnya di kepala atau di luar, sementara celana kita pakai untuk topi dan kemeja kita pakai untuk bawahan. Kan ada seperti itu ya, kreativitas yang seperti itu. Tapi kalau kita pakai di komunitas yang sudah ada di tempat umum, apa yang akan terjadi? Is this person okay? Gitu kan ya. Jadi dianggap sedikit, bukan sedikit mungkin malah dianggap kurang waras begitu. So that's the point. Ketika kita menggunakan pakaian tapi tidak pada tempatnya, tidak sesuai dengan aturan yang sudah ada, maka akan membingungkan banyak orang. Begitu juga kalimat itu hanya analogi ya. Ketika kita menggunakan kata benda, kata kerja, kata sifat, tapi tidak sesuai dengan aturan yang sudah ada, maka ketika kita menggunakannya dalam percakapan, pastinya akan membingungkan penutur aslinya gitu. Yang kita ajak bicara tidak akan memahami apa yang kita maksud. So, syntagmatic relations are about the sequence of words in a sentence, how it should be arranged. Jadi dimulai dari subjek, lalu verb, lalu apa belakangnya. While paradigmatic relations are about word choices that you can swap in a sentence without breaking the rules. How many possible words that can be chosen, itu kuncinya ya. So, syntagmatic is the flow of words in a sentence, while paradigmatic is about swapping words while keeping the sentence grammatically correct. Jadi kalau syntagmatic itu kita menyusun kata-kata sesuai kelas katanya ya, mulai dari subjek, verb kalau dia kalimat positif. Sementara paradigmatically itu kita bisa swap atau ganti misalnya demonstrative pronoun this dengan that atau dengan artikel and the tergantung konteksnya. Kemudian subjek bisa apa saja selama dia kata benda, noun, noun phrase or noun clause. And then after the subject, it must be followed by verbs. Any verb selama dia masih mengikuti peraturan yaitu kata kerja yang diminta ya. Lalu berikutnya apa? Apakah butuh keterangan waktu, keterangan tempat, dan seterusnya. Now let's make some conclusion here. For synonymy, antonymy, polysemy, and homonymy, you can see the definition over here on the left. And for hyponymy, hypernymy, meronymy, and metonymy, you can see the definition on the right. For syntagmatic versus paradigmatic, as I explained earlier, then syntagmatic relations help us understand how words work together in a sentence, and paradigmatic relation help us understand how words can be replaced to change or vary meaning. Jadi agar maknanya beragam gitu ya, tergantung konteksnya. Together, they show how vocabulary and grammar shape real communication. To make it easy for you, I put it in analogy. Syntagmatic, it's like how words stick together like trains, cars in a row. While paradigmatic, which words can take that spot on the train. Now for the assignment here. For next week, yeah, the deadline. First, about hypernym and hypernym tree. Create a tree diagram with at least 3 levels, minimum 7 words. Choose one topic. Add a short explanation 2 to 3 sentences. Jadi buat satu aja ya, satu pohon diagram tentang hypernym sama hypernym ya. Jadi yang paling atas itu hypernym tapi 3 level. Kalau tadi kan contohnya 2 level, colors dan beberapa warna. Kalau ini 3 level misalnya animals, kemudian animals dibagi beberapa kategori. Kemudian di bawahnya ada lagi kategorinya individunya gitu ya, masing-masing contoh binatangnya. Dan dijelaskan, misalnya hypernymnya adalah apa, hiponymnya adalah apa. Kemudian soal kedua, metonymy in sentences. Write 3 original sentences using metonymy. For each, explain what the metonym refers to. Jangan sampai ketinggalan nih. Jadi buat 3 kalimat menggunakan metonym. Tadi yang saya contohkan adalah the crown, the White House, sama satu lagi tadi Hollywood ya. Nah, tapi Anda buat dalam kalimat. Bukan definisi, tapi kalimat. Setelah itu, jelaskan metonym ini refer atau mewakili apa. Misalnya tadi Hollywood refers to the US film industry. Gitu ya, setelah buat kalimat, jelaskan referensinya ke apa. Dan yang ketiga, paradigmatic changes. So you just write one simple sentence first. Di pertama tulis satu kalimat sederhana yang ada subject verbnya dan lebih bagus lagi ada objeknya. Kemudian buat 5 versi yang berbeda dari satu kalimat simple tadi. Anda boleh ganti subjeknya kah, verbnya kah, atau objeknya atau apapun itu sehingga memiliki 5 variasi yang berbeda. Oke? Okay? If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in WhatsApp group. Okay? Thank you very much. See you in class.